our final speech of the International Speech Contest, we have Scott Brown with his speech, Fear. Fear, Scott Brown.
I was paralyzed. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. The aircraft door opened, and the sound of the jet engine silenced the world. The deep blue abyss was staring at me, asking me if I was strong enough to face my fear. When I woke up that morning, I knew that it was not going to be an ordinary day. Today was the day that I was going to get my skydiving license. For as long as I can remember, I always wanted to fly. I had dreamt of soaring through the sky completely unencumbered, completely free. And for the last 10 months, I had been. I'd been training to get my skydiving license. I had gone through the written and the oral exams. I had 25 jumps under my belt. There was one thing that I needed to do before I was officially licensed. I needed to learn to pack a parachute. There was a reason this was the last thing that I needed to do before I got my license. I was pretty nervous about it. There are a lot of things that could go wrong if my parachute wasn't packed properly. The parachute might deploy too fast and break my back. The lines might get twisted up and prevent the parachute from inflating at all. The main parachute and the reserve parachute might deploy at the same time and get entangled, sending me spiraling down towards the ground. Still, it was time to move forward with my life. It was time to learn to pack a parachute. It was time to face my fear. There I found myself that Saturday morning, learning from one of the packing instructors in this sweaty aircraft hangar. When we had finished the process, his parachute looked like a cleanly pressed three-piece suit. Mine looked like a pile of dirty laundry. T-shirts and underwear strewn about the floor. Still, I had followed all the instructions. The lines were all in the right place. Ugly as it was, this parachute was okay to jump. So I put it on my back, and I got into the plane. We flew up 13,000 feet. I opened the door, and as I had done so many times before, I looked down at the ground, and I jumped. After 1 minute of free fall, I threw my parachute, and it opened above me. Inflated, straight, square. Relief flooded over me for about 6 seconds. And then my parachute started to turn. I grabbed the steering toggles. I tried to break the turn, but nothing that I did could get me to fly straight. When a parachute turns, it banks and it dives. The harder I turned, the longer I turned, the faster I banked, the steeper I dove, until I was trapped in an uncontrollable spiral. The parachute, which was once over my head, slowly began to lower itself until it was level with me. Instead of looking out at the horizon, I was looking down at the ground, at death, spiraling towards it uncontrollably in a cyclone of horror. I had no idea what to do. Instinctively, I grabbed the cutaway handle on my chest and pulled. The parachute jettisoned off into the sky. I deployed my reserve parachute, and a minute later, I was on the ground. Safe, right? I think a lot of people would have quit the sport then and there. I could barely stand. My head was spinning. I was in no condition to jump again. I'll just go home. I could come back next week. I could learn to pack then. The drop zone would still be there. Recoup. Live to fight another day. This was fear talking. I knew that if I listened to it, even in this one instant, that I wouldn't come back again next week. That I would never come back. I would never jump again. That my dreams of flying through the sky would be at an end. I grabbed another rented parachute off the rack and I started to pack it. My hands were shaking. It took me 45 minutes to pack the parachute, and when I had, it looked no better than the first one had. But still, I put it on my back, and I got in the plane. I didn't have to do this. I can go home. I can fly down on the plane. I can drive home. I can just watch the Giants game. I don't have to pack. I don't have to jump out of a plane. I don't have to fear for my life. I could spend the next 40 years living without the fear of death, but without the joy of life. I'd always promised myself that I wouldn't shy away from the adventures that I craved, that I wouldn't live in complacency. I thought that it would be much better to die in a horrible accident than to live as a slave to fear. It was an easy thing to tell myself when my feet were on the ground. But I was in a plane 2 miles above the earth, and the clear blue abyss was looking back at me, taunting me, asking me if I had the courage of my convictions, if I had the strength to face my fear. The light above the aircraft door changed from red to green. Decision time. I got up and I jumped. After one eternity, I threw my parachute. Before it even inflated, my hand was already on the cutaway handle. But I looked up, and it was good. It was there, flying straight as an arrow, and I was screaming. Screaming in relief, in joy, in triumph. I'd faced my fear, and I was alive. For the first time in my life, I was alive. If you feel trapped by fear, act immediately. Go after that job that you've been eyeing. Take that vacation that you've been dreaming about. Have that difficult conversation that you've been putting off. You were not made to live in hesitation. Break your paralysis, face your fear, and become alive. Mr. Toastmaster.